Hi KCBI, it is me, Lauree from the afternoons, if you listen from 3 to 7 each day at 90.9 KCBI. It has been an interesting season right now, and I know the topic a lot of families are talking about is schooling. What are we doing? What is our school district doing? Are we changing courses right now? And so whatever those decisions are, we wanted to make sure that there are some resources to give to you and to your family in this time. So it's not going to be me. I brought in the experts on homeschooling, Kim and Sarah Claibourn. Thank you guys for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having us.
So you guys have, I think you just said, 12 years of homeschooling.
Going on 12 years, yes.
Wow, okay. So we've got some expertise here in the room. To the parent that is sitting at home right now with the different options in front of them, and they feel homeschooling is going to be the best option for them, but they're starting at ground zero. They made that decision. What's the next step that you would recommend to that parent of resources or curriculum or just support systems? What would be your recommendation to them?
Their best resources, if they know somebody who does homeschool, then just picking their brain as much as they can, and to try to talk about their own child and how their child works and studies and such, so that maybe they would be able to help point them to maybe the best place to start anyway.
Yeah.
But also knowing up front that the first thing you try isn't going to be necessarily your best thing that you try. But that is still progress, because you know that I don't want to do that.
Yep.
And I can move on to something else. And don't ever be afraid to move on from one thing to another, because you need to pick what's best for your child and for not even just the child, but for the parent. Because some parents are bent towards doing things a certain way also. And so if they're not comfortable with the way they're doing it, then they're not going to succeed.
So really figuring out your personality type as a teacher, figuring out your kids' learning styles as students. Now you said you kind of alluded to that there's a lot of different resources, which is good news.
Yes.
And so different curriculums that you're picking, how do you determine where to even start? Is there an assessment? Is there something to be able to say, okay, this is who my child is as a learner, so there are these resources or these teaching styles, or this is the content that I want to teach? How do you kind of sort through all the different resources and say, this is where I want to start?
Well, there is a really good resource of Kathy McDuffie.
Okay.
And she does reviews on all of the curriculum out there.
Okay.
And so she'll tell you, like, whether it's secular, whether it's Christian in nature, how, like, hands-on it is, or if it's, like, computer-driven, how much parent involvement needs, how much you need to prepare as a parent versus it just being kind of put it in front of you and go.
Yeah.
And so that's really helpful, because you can go look and see kind of what your time is for one thing, so the parent part. But you can also say, if your kid is more of a hands-on kinetic learner, then they can pick some of those things.
Oh, that's great.
And if they're more like, well, they're just task-oriented and they could do it on the computer, then, or maybe they're going to have to be at home by themselves.
Okay.
Computer might be a good option that way too.
Yeah.
And so there's all of those things in there
great.
for them to look at.
Okay. And all the resources that we're talking about already, they're going to be linked right here for you to be able to go and check out as well for your family. So for the parents that are thinking to themselves, okay, I drop my kid off at 8 o'clock, or they get on a bus and 3 o'clock they come home, am I supposed to fill all of that time in the day? Or what's a reasonable expectation to say, you can get through school in 30 minutes? Is that too short? What's been your experience?
Well, of course, it depends on your child and how diligent they are. And it also depends on how many distractions you have. If you have a lot of little children, there might be more distraction.
Yeah.
But you certainly shouldn't expect them to spend an 8-hour day like they do at public school, unless maybe they're a high schooler and, it's challenging for them. But a kindergartner, you could expect them to be done in an hour, depending on the kid. If as they move up, it's 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours if you're a middle schooler, high schooler.
Okay. A lot of schooling has gone online. Is that an expectation that when people are saying homeschooling, it's mostly going to be online, or is that going to be more age appropriate for where the kids are and what they're learning?
Again, it just depends on what their style is. Now,
Okay.
if they're taking their public school and they're bringing it home,
Yeah.
it's most likely going to be mostly online.
Okay.
If that's what you like to do, or you think your kids really like to be on the computer that much, my kids don't. They like books.
Yeah.
It is a good way if your parent really doesn't have the time to like grade and stuff like that. The computer is a good option, especially if maybe just for particular subjects too, like math or something. But the curriculum really out there is so good.
Okay.
Even if you're using a book curriculum, most of them have solution books. You'll be surprised at how much your child will be able to actually walk through some of that stuff on their own and help them figure it out. You might even learn something too.
Yeah. Oh, I would. You chose to homeschool before Corona was ever a word that was whispered. So tell me, what's been the best part of homeschooling from both of your perspective as student and teacher?
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like it was really good for me. Personally, I thrive off of like being self-motivated, and so at first it was really tough to say, okay, Sarah, like you have to sit down and actually read and study and do your work. And at the end of high school, like after I had learned how to study and work, like I was so much more self-motivated, a self-starter, and like going into college, I was able to thrive and succeed in that setting where you aren't being told to do your homework. You get a syllabus and the professor teaches you and says, okay, do your work. And that helped me tremendously.
I love that. That's that muscle of being self-motivated, being accountable to the things that your professor, when they're not checking in on you, mom and dad aren't looking over your shoulder. I'm sure that's what you want all of your kids to be, you know, that they own their responsibilities and they do that. And what for you has been the secret moment, or that just, this makes it so great?
Well, other than I just love having my kids around.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because I so many times would just be like, I have to send them to school. I don't want, you know. But so I really enjoy just being with my kids. But just being able to know that I'm the one they're helping to mold their character, and being able to put into them what I know is best for them, and being able to be with them on a regular basis to read, you know, where are they struggling, and when do I need to change curriculum? When do I need to work on this character in their life, or you know, those types of things.
All right, so that's the mountaintop. Give me the valley, man. What are the mistakes that have been made that you'd say, I would stay away from that?
Well, I'll tell you, the hardest thing about homeschool is the discipline that she's talking about. The day in, day out of being able to get up and stick with it. And you will have bad days. I mean, we all have bad days.
Yeah.
And there's times that you'll think, I shouldn't be doing this because I'm not doing it very well.
Yeah.
And those days will seem more often than they should be, you know. But persevere, you know, persevere. Tell yourself, I'm starting over today. We're going to do it better, you know. So that's really the hardest part, is just feeling like you're not doing a good job, you know. But chances are you're doing just a fine job with it.
Yeah. Okay, so the bad days, give yourself grace for those. Sarah, for you, what were some of the things that made it really difficult?
I think it's a lot of the same things she was saying about discipline. I really struggled in math, and I would say I'm pretty natural at everything else but math.
Okay.
And so, like, having to really work through that, and you can ask her. She would teach me, and I would cry. I would just cry because I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And I got through, but it really was the day in and day out, like, okay, I have to sit down, I have to try, I have to listen and show myself grace, and just keep persevering.
Yeah.
It isn't easy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm a better person because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like my mom's saying, just getting to be instilled with biblical knowledge as well, like integrated into my learning, was such an amazing experience. And I have my mom to thank for it.
That's so cool. And just even the time in relationship. I mean, we live in such a busy world, and so, you know, if it's for a year, if it's for longer, to have this season together on this great adventure of schooling. Well, thank you guys for all of your wisdom today. I hope that you walk away from this with a little bit more inspiration to say, okay, failure is part of it, maybe even the first step, but that failure is forward, and that you're going to learn, your kids are going to learn, your kids are going to get through the year, you're going to get through the year. And bonus, there's tons of resources. And so figuring out how your kids learn, how you teach, probably there's some assessments there online, some great resources that we want to give you in your hands. But I hope that today, Sarah and Kim just kind of gave you the pep talk to be able to say, hey, you've made this decision, it's going to be good. And I hope that you look ahead just with a sense of adventure to say, okay, what does God have for us and our family and my kid, my child, as they are learning this next year? So we are praying for you. Of course, if you've got any specific prayer requests, kcbi.org, the tab there at the top that says prayer, that might be the best resource for you. But thank you so much for being along for the ride.